you ever had a goal that just seemed impossible? If so, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Notable Peeps podcast, a series that gives attention to remarkable people who are putting on their shoes, doing their best, and believing in the impossible.
All my dreams are coming true.
Welcome to the Notable Peeps podcast. My name's Steph, and I'm chatting here with Dr. Deitra C. Payne. I think we all have our challenges and our struggles. And so can you take us back to a time in your life that was a challenge and how you were able to overcome it?
I think for me, the most challenging time was when my father passed away on Thanksgiving in 2022. And 2 days later, I ended up in the hospital because I couldn't speak and I had no memory. So that was a very challenging time for me. It was also a scary time for me. So I came out of it 2 days later. So I don't remember anything from the time they took me to the hospital till when I woke up, which I don't like because I have no memory of that whatsoever. And I always say, if I'm going to go in the ambulance, I want to know. So I have no idea what I have no idea what that ride is like, right? But they took me in an ambulance to the hospital. So that was very challenging for me. And of course, it changed my perspective on the way I see things because when I got out of the hospital, someone told me that, oh, the doctors told us that we need to prepare to get you a caregiver. And so I was taken aback. I was shocked. I was like, oh no. So I started thinking a little differently about the way in which I would live my life. I've achieved a lot of my goals, but that's a little different from being fulfilled. So I wanted to start going after what I call my big, bold dreams, right? And that was one of the reasons I started my business to inspire, uplift, and motivate others to go after their big, bold dreams. Of course, we all know that tomorrow isn't promised, but when certain things happen, particularly loss and then loss of my memory, you start to look at things a little differently. So I said, I want to make sure that I achieve my big, bold dreams, go after those dreams that I may have just put on hold, which could have died with me, right? They could have been denied because I'm expecting to be here the next day, but that doesn't always happen.
Man, as you said that, I can't imagine the grief and then going through that where you don't remember what happened. You were in the hospital. And so what a whirlwind. And as you're talking about the dreams that you hadn't done, I mean, you have had a very successful career in academia. Like you had your PhD, you had written these papers, and so to go from that to starting your own business, I assume it's sort of different worlds.
Yeah, being an entrepreneur is different, but what I'm doing, I would say is similar because for me, my entire life, I've always been passionate about helping others. So when I was an educator, I was helping students. Now I'm kind of stepping out on the stage, sharing my story to inspire, uplift, and motivate others. I've always wanted to pay it forward and to inspire others to become the best that they can be. That's always been something that was innate to me. And so I've always been passionate about it.
No, that's so cool that you're the similarity with that of being an educator and teaching that. And I'm curious, like, what were some of your other dreams that you felt like you weren't reaching if they aren't too personal to share?
Well, the dream that I had put on hold for many, many years while I was teaching at the colleges and university was to start my business. So that was one of my dreams. And so I said, I need to get my business started because who knows what tomorrow is going to bring. And so the other big, bold dream was to be on a game show. And so I decided to venture out to California and I was in the audience of Let's Make a Deal. I was selected and I won my game. And I was so excited about that because I achieved one of these big, bold dreams because this is a dream that I have no control over, right? I have control over whether or not I would achieve my PhD, because all it takes is dedication, hard work, commitment. But I had no control over whether I was going to be selected for a game show and even winning, because the game that I played on Let's Make a Deal was you roll the dice and you have to get to $1,000. Exactly. So I had no control. That was all God, right? So I was just so excited because here I am achieving this big, bold dream. I have other dreams, but because I have not yet achieved them, I don't believe in sharing my dreams, because I did that many years ago. I'd always wanted to drive across country, and I was working for a college in South Carolina. And so I still had my home in Arizona. So I was going to drive from South Carolina to Arizona, which I think takes 33 hours. And someone said, no, don't do that. And I almost didn't do it, even though this was one of my dreams, was to travel across country. But because I was going to be driving alone as a Black woman, they said, no, no. And I almost didn't do it. So now I'm a big proponent of do not share your dreams while you're working towards them, because you may always get people who don't understand your dreams and don't support them, which would have you thinking, well, should I go for it? And that's exactly what happened to me. But I understood the reason behind, me being told not to do that, because I was going to be driving alone. So it was all about caring for me and concern for me. But it was a dream, so I need to go for it. And so at the last second, I said, I'm going to go out there and try it. And that's exactly what I did.
That's such a good point, though, that, like, the people around us, like, my mom sometimes refers to her as, she's like, "I don't mean to be a dream killer," but she's like, I'm just, like, a realist, you know? And she wants to protect us like most moms do, you know? You don't wanna see your kid get hurt or disappointed or whatnot, and so I think that that's a really important factor of sort of keeping them close to the vest until they happen, because then no one else has their opinion on it. Or if you tell your family and friends, no one's worrying about you with whatever
Mhm.
you're doing.
Yeah, that is so true. But I think you are would probably be more disappointed if you don't go after your dreams. I read a research that indicated when people get to the end, they regret not living their dreams. And I was listening to someone this morning who talked about the very thing about not sharing your dreams as well, because of the people around you. They don't understand it. And the person was saying, well, this is what God has for you. And so people are not going to understand that path that God has for you. Only you understand it. And so it's important not to share that, because, like you said, your mother said a dream killer. So it's like, are you going to regret, not going for your dreams, or will you be okay? I think that's probably the question one should ask themselves. Will I regret not going after this dream? Because I met someone at a networking event and she said, my family, if I tell them my dreams and other people in the family talk about their dreams, the first thing they do is like, you're not going to be able to do that. Why are you going after that dream? So, so they kill the person's dream, right? So I think you have to realize this is your dream, and how important is this dream to me? Will I regret not going after this dream? So don't share it with anyone. Just continue moving forward to achieving it. That's my
No,
perspective. I think it's okay
no,
to share
I
the
love
title.
that. I agree with that. And I'm curious because when I was doing my research about you, that it talked about that you were shy growing up in DC.
Oh,
So I'm curious how you were able to shift that shyness, because public speaking is usually people's biggest fears and you're speaking to college kids. I'm like, how were you able to change that fear?
that's a great question. Yes, I was born and raised in Washington, D.C., and I grew up painfully shy. Even when I went to the university, everyone would say, there's no way you're from DC, because they have this image of DC women who are aggressive, and it was nothing like me. I mean, people would tell me, "Oh no, you were born and raised in North Carolina." They would just come up with some place I was born and raised that would fit my personality, right? Because I was so quiet, it's just painfully shy, didn't really talk to a lot of people. And you asked the question, how did I come out of that? To be honest, I don't know. I think it's more so because I've always been passionate about education. So I cannot stand in front of a class being shy. So I think over the years, because I knew that this was the dream that I was going to pursue, because I was like burning inside of me, I knew that I was going to be an educator. No ifs and buts about it. It's just that I thought that I would be teaching math because I loved algebra. And in the seventh grade, I would run home and try to teach anyone who would listen to me. That's how passionate I am about, about teaching. And so I knew for a fact that I was going to be an educator. So I think just over the years and just by interacting with other people, it just suddenly kind of disappeared, being painfully shy, but I'm still an introvert. And so when we talk about the Myers-Briggs type indicator in class, I would tell students that I'm an introvert, and they would always say, "There's no way you're an introvert." But I am. When we're talking about introversion, of course, we're talking about where we get our energy from. I get my energy from myself, not by being around a lot of people. So I'm an introvert today. And so I always talk about the fact being an introvert, a lot of times I have to step out of my comfort zone. I had to do that when I went to Let's Make a Deal because part of that process is interacting with the other people who are going to be in the audience. And so I had to step out of that comfort zone in order to achieve my dreams, which is one of the reasons I'm so passionate about inspiring others to go for their dreams because a lot of people feel stuck. And so just take, I think initially you were talking about just take one little step because that's progress. One little step towards achieving your dream. And so every day, what is it that I can do that's going to move me forward to achieving my dreams? Just one little step, even if it's just getting out of bed and think about it or writing something down, right? Just take one little step each day. So for me, I have to step out of my comfort zone at times.
I think that what's powerful about what you said is that your passion for educating people, whether it was someone like the fact that you loved math and then you would go home and want to tell people about math, I'm like, that's amazing because that was not my case. But I think that that's powerful of like whatever it is that you're passionate about, that passion oftentimes overcomes that fear. That's a
Right.
skill that you're able to learn. And so I think that that's very powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. And also it took some time for me being a kid when I was painfully shy to being a college professor. So like I said, over time, I think just by interacting with others, it just evaporated.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I'm curious, like, as we're talking about a dream and change and stuff, as you've worked more with your like business and consulted and educated with individuals, how has it been to see that transformation? Because when you were teaching it at university, what were you teaching about?
I was teaching human resource management and business. And so I can go in and do corporate training, even though I'm more focused at the moment on doing the motivational speaking. But when I was a college professor, my research interest was workplace bullying. And I've given a lot of presentations at academic and professional conferences on workplace bullying. So I can go into corporate America and do training in the areas of workplace bullying, emotional intelligence, conflict management. But I'm more passionate about motivating and inspiring others and telling my story to let people know that we all go through challenges. We all go through difficulties. We're human. We make mistakes, but don't let that define you. Go after your dreams because when you get to the end, you may regret not living your dreams. So go after your dreams, right? even if it's just one step at a time, one little baby step at a time. And sometimes it does take a while to achieve your dreams. The difference is, are you going to give up, or are you going to continue going for those dreams that you have, right? Because some people, because it's taking a lot of time, they may just say, I'm going to give up, right? But if it's truly a dream of yours, you should always continue to move forward and go after those dreams, even though it may be taking a little longer than what you may have anticipated. It's important to still go after them because, it's like I said that one of my big bold dreams was to be on Let's Make a Deal, right? If I had not been selected, I would have continued to go to the game show in hopes of getting selected. Remember, I had no control over whether or not I was going to be a contestant. That was up to someone else to make that decision. But because it's a dream, I was still going to continue with going after that dream. But luckily, it only took one try. And I would
No.
say, this is the other thing I would say, is you have to believe in your dreams, because I truly believed I was going to be selected. So I think that is so important. You have to believe.
No, and that belief sometimes is so hard because it's easy to be like, like the doubt sort of creeps in of, well, why you? You know, like, or how is that gonna happen? Like, I mean, I just am thinking about my dreams that I have that every day. It seems like it's a constant battle of no, like you can do this. So how are you coaching the people in your business to keep that momentum, like you said, to not give up on their dreams and keep moving forward?
Yeah, I think the biggest aspect of people who have dreams is that sometimes you have to make that mindset shift. Because when you're thinking negatively, guess what? That's exactly what you're going to get. When that inner critic starts telling you, oh, you're not going to be able to achieve that, then that's exactly what's going to happen. You have to start thinking positively. And one of the things that I like to talk about is when people think negatively, it's not you. It's the way in which our brain is wired. That's neuroscience. It's called the negativity bias. So everything that happens, right, when we start thinking negatively, it's the way our brains have been wired. So we have to rewire our brains. And one of the ways in which you can do that is surround yourself with positive people. Surround yourself with people who are going to uplift you, support you, and believe in you and celebrate your wins. But more importantly, you celebrate your wins. You're going to be the person who's going to clap the loudest, because not everyone out there is going to applaud for you or who they're going to wish you the best. That's why you have to have a circle of supportive people who are positive, right? That's one of the things that you can do. So to continue to change your brain towards positivity or rewire your brain towards positivity. The other thing is something I do every single day, and I've been doing it for a while, is I practice gratitude. And just because we practice gratitude, it doesn't mean that our challenges and difficulties are going to go away. But guess what? The research indicates by practicing gratitude, we're rewiring our brains towards positivity. I would tell anyone who is not practicing gratitude to do it for a year. And I'll bet you that you'll see a change in yourself. You'll see growth. Because when we're talking about gratitude, we're growing. It produces growth. Writing down those things that we're grateful for in our life. And I write down at least 6 every single night.
Man, I love that you have a number that you're writing down 6 because I think that, like, it's sometimes easy to be like, "Oh, I'm grateful for my family, I'm grateful for my friends, I'm grateful for my job," or whatever, but to get to 6, you're, like, really thinking, "Okay, what what happened today?" You know, I'm sure that is that sort of why you have that number, or, like, where did you come up with the number 6?
It's just usually what I normally tell people when you're starting with gratitude is to write down at least 3. But when I've been journaling about the things I'm grateful for, I'll usually I didn't just come up with a number. It's just that as I'm writing, it usually ends up with about six. And sometimes it's more, it's been 10, but usually six, right? And I'm going to start writing more things that I'm grateful for. But that's what it's been. That's the number that it has been. And I think I put the most important things that I'm grateful for um, in my journal. And I start with God. I'm grateful for God. And when you're writing the things you're grateful for, you have to go into detail. Why are you grateful for this? So, not just saying, oh, I'm grateful for my family, but why are you grateful for your family? And I personally believe that there's power in also writing. So it's not just typing up something, because I write mine out because I believe there's power in writing it out. So be specific in terms of why are you grateful for whatever it is that you're grateful for. And I completely believe in the power of gratitude. And I've talked about certain things that have happened that really prove my point about gratitude. Many years ago, the lights in my house went out, and they were not out for a long period of time. It was during the day. And so I said, "Oh, I forgot my lights out," because I'd gone to the guest bathroom to get something and there's no window, and I hit the switch. And so since that time, I think it has only gone out once since that time, and that was recently, right? And this happened in 2007. So I put on in my gratitude journal, I'm grateful for power and electricity, because that's something that we normally take for granted. It's like, oh, I'm paying my electricity bill, so I expect my lights to be on. I'm paying my power bill, so I expect everything to, be on. But that's not the way things work.
I 100% agree with what you're saying right there. And especially the gratitude piece, I think is key. So so thank you for sharing all your wisdom with us. And to those of you who've joined in the conversation and have listened, just remember, whatever you're going through, continue to put on your shoes, do your best, and believe in the impossible. And I'll catch you guys next Sunday.
All my